right? Step number one, think about slide and divide. When you factor in this one, and if some of you don't remember how to factor, let me know. We spend, it's like 3 weeks on how to factor, right? So step number one, at least I want to see that you try the factoring method. That's what you do. So what will you do when I ask you to factor out something? Well, step number one, I need to know my A, B, and C, right? When it's asked to factor, that's the first step. So I would have 2, 4, and -5. And then I have some you missed one. I can't do much after that because what happened is when I multiply, I do that diamond, I have -10 and 4. I cannot find the pair, right? The option that you have for -10, you have 2 and 5, and then you have 1 and 10. So I missed one. I cannot find that. What do? I don't know what to do. That's why I'm asking, if you factor, what happened in this situation? And it's okay. For some, you just been typing the question, like, what do? I don't know what to do with this. You don't, because I taught you how to factor it out. What I'm trying to look for is that you recognize this is not factorable. That is mean you use the method that we learned, it didn't work. So what we need to do, what we're going to do is that we're going to come up with a new method so that we can solve this equation. Okay, so it's okay. I know. Some of you is like, I don't know. It's okay. This is new, right? So just in case anyone was like, what do you mean by factor? It's the A, B, and C, and then you do that diamond, and then you divide by A, you set up the two products. That is a factoring method, okay? If you don't know what that is, you can go back and watch the video or join me in Flip Remote, and I can help you. All right, the code for this one is GTDCTQ. Okay, there's a code. All right, so what we're gonna do, what we will do is that we're gonna learn a new method to solve quadratic function. And that method is we call quadratic formula. This is when factoring is not working. When we found that number with the product and we cannot find that pair, it doesn't work. So what you're going to do, I will leave this up for you for every single slide that we practiced today. But I'm going to ask you that if you can't, copy this down, have it in front of you. This is called the quadratic formula. It looks scary, right? It looks like there's a lot of letters. There's a lot of calculation, and some of them you're like, what is that plus and minus? That looks scary. And then you have the square root. It's actually not too bad, okay? So I just want you to follow the steps. Have a piece of paper. If you want to copy down from Pear Deck, that is fine, because when I end the session, the note will be saved for you. But if you do a piece of paper, that would work. I'm not asking you to have this memorized. This one. The formula right here. I don't need you to memorize that. I will give it to you on the test. I will give it to you. I will share the screen. I'll give you the equation. But I want you to understand how to use it. So don't spend time to memorize the equation, but I'd rather know, like, okay, what do I do? So look at B, A, C, A, right? Look at these letters. You know what they are because that is from the given function. So step number one, before I can do anything, I need to know my A, B, and C. So this is a new method. So you have not, some of you may have seen it. If you have not, it's okay. It's a little crazy, but it's not too bad. All right, we'll take our time on this. So step number one, we can identify our A, B, and C. Can someone tell me what is A, B, and C? What values are those? Look at the equation given to you. Okay, cool. A is, thank you, Gina. So A is 2, whoops, 2, okay. Then we have B, 4, and negative 5. Thank you, and Julie, thank you, Gina. So I have 4, and then I have negative 5. Great. So as soon as you identify your A, B, and C, what you're going to do is that we're going to use, look at the letter, look at the equation given to you up here, this one. This one. We're going to use that formula and we're going to follow exactly what's given to you. So if it say B, I will use the values for B, which is 4. So let's follow along, okay? The first parenthesis, I break it down in steps for you. So step number 1, I'm going to replace the letters with the numbers that I know. So the first number right here is B, right? I know B is 4. Notice this is negative B, so I always have that negative, that parenthesis say this is the number that I'm going to replace. Then I will move on to my next term, next number, which is also B. So I'm going to replace that with 4 as well. Minus 4 times A times C. So that means I'm going to replace the first value with A, which is 2. And then I'm going to replace C with 5. And then on the denominator, I have 2A, right? So that's going to be 2 times 2, because 2 is the A values. So any question for me so far? This is the new way to solve quadratic function instead of do, slide, and divide. It's called quadratic formula. And the formula that I highlight in green, mint, that is the one that we will use all the time. So we can fill in from my understanding, from my experience teaching Algebra 2 and doing this. Most of you do well with the first step. We recognize A, B, and C. We plug it in. The problem that we are running in for this kind of problem is that order operation, and sometimes you messed up on which one to do first. All right. So let's follow the step that I provided for you. Okay. Notice I still want you to. This one I will keep. The one that I want you to start to simplify is the one that inside the radical. So you want to do that one first. 4 squared minus 4 times 2 times 5. Okay, if you have a calculator, you can put, if you have a graphing calculator that I have, you can just type in 4 squared minus 4 times 2 times 5, and then you get a number. If not, you can do it step by step. So I can see 4 squared give me 16 minus 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. I'm sorry, I missed one thing. This should be negative 5. Sorry. So that would plus 40. Okay. So that would give me 56. So that's the next step that I would do on the bottom is 2 times 2. So I don't do that yet. You could in the future if you recognize a problem, and you can skip a few steps. Some of you should be able to do it. But for now, I'm just going to do one by one. Okay, so I'm just simplifying what inside the radical. So I take 4 squared. No, that's a 4 to the second power. This one is 4. Because that's the B value. B is 4, so I replace B with 4, not 11. Okay. Question for me so far with the steps. So I replace A, B, and C. That's my first. The second step, I will simplify inside the radical, which is the part that I just highlight. Okay. All right, the next step that I would do I don't know why I have this negative again. I did it wrong. It should be 4. Okay, so this is 4, square root of 56. Now what I would do is that I will multiply the denominator, so that would give me 4. Okay. Question on how I got 56, 4, all of that. Any question for me so far? So that's the first 3 steps. All right, now look at this one, the square root. This is the part that I want you to kind of pay attention in the future, is that for the square root, for now, we're not going to simplify, but what we can do, if you look at this one, square root of 56 will not give you a nice number, so don't take a square root. You can only take a square root if it gives you a nice number. If it doesn't, leave it. And now the last step you would do, you see how this is a plus and a minus? This one, this part right here. I'm going to highlight that. This part right here, the plus and the minus, that is telling you you're going to have 2 solutions. You're going to have 2 numbers. So what you do, we're going to split it up into 2 answers. The first one is negative 4 plus square root of 56 over 4. The second one is the same thing, but instead of a plus, notice it's a plus and minus. I split them up. So minus square root of 56 over 4. And this would be my answer, or we call solution. Okay, so we have this equation. We have a different one. We have 5x squared minus 20x plus 15. Notice the equation, the function right here, I gave it to you. Whoops. Right here, right? So I will always give you the formula. You don't have to have it memorized. However, you need to know what values you need to replace with which letter. Okay? So step number 1. Step 1. I need to know my A, B, and C. Okay? Tell me what A, B, and C. What do you have? Which one is which? It's really important you recognize A, B, and C. That's a very first step, and it's crucial that you recognize it, because you're going to use it for pretty much everything we learn in quadratic. If you still don't know what they are, I really, really want you to see me for help. Okay? Cool. Thank you. So it's 5 negative 20 and 15. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to replace these numbers into each parenthesis. So make sure that you pay attention to this one right here, right? So that way you're going to replace with the right number. So the problem is we may overlook, we just replace, instead of the B values, we may replace with C. So for the first parenthesis, for this very first parenthesis, what values should I put in that parenthesis? So what value should I replace? Think about, look at the function I given to you. What letter is right there? And then go back to step number 1 and look at that letter, look at that number. So which one should I replace? So I highlight my first parenthesis. Can someone tell me? It's be useful if you follow along and then you know what to put in. It's not just 20, it's negative 20. Thank you, Abby. Negative 20. So when I notice it's negative 20, so I will put in negative 20. I need to write this a little bit bigger, okay? So negative, zoom in a little bit, negative, okay, so negative 20. Good. Now what I will do, be careful with the negative, okay? Because sometimes if the number is negative, then you want to enter a negative because later on that negative will cancel out. So don't lose the negative. Even though like, wait, but there's a negative. It's okay. If b value is negative, I will put inside that parenthesis a negative, okay? Let's do the next parenthesis. This one. What values? It will change to 20 later, but right now for the first step, I just want to show what I plug it in. So yes, Gina, that is correct. It will turn into positive later, for sure. For now, I just want to show what should I plug into the equation, that's all. Okay, so the next parenthesis, what should I put in for the next parenthesis? What values? What values works here? Okay, still negative, it still be values is negative 20, yes. Okay, so negative 20. Okay, then we will look at your next parenthesis. What would that be? What value would that be? Okay, A is 5. Good, so I put in 5. Thank you. All right, the last parenthesis. What value should I plug it in? No, well, that's not the last one. There's one more. So almost the last number. What is that going to be? Can someone tell me? What values would that be? No one? I mean, we don't know what that is, or you just don't feel like responding to me. We got the first 3. 15? Yes, thank you, Abby. So that's 15. Cool. Thank you. So that's 15. And then the one on the bottom, right here, this is the A value, so I can put in 5. So that's step 2. We replace each letter with the right values. Thank you, Angeli. So how do you feel about that? Step 2, is that okay? Is it something that you need me to re-explain? I know for some of you it's like, Miss Wen, I know what to do. Like, can you go faster? Or some of the Miss Wen, I get both. So some like, it's confusing. What are you doing? So please let me know. So I know what I need to go back and re-explain. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move on to step 3. Right here, for the negative 20, negative and negative, this will turn into positive. So I will change this to positive 20. Okay. So what I need to do is I'm going to need to work inside the parenthesis. Notice this one is negative 20 to the second power. So be very careful. So this is going to give you 400 minus, let's multiply, 4 times 5 times 15. This gives you 300. So 400 minus, why it's become 20 positive? Because if you look on step number 2, there's always a negative b. And the values, the b values are given to you is a negative. So double negative, negative, and negative, it will cancel out. So that turns into positive. Does So that's why we want to be very careful with the b value, especially the first term, the first parenthesis. So if you look over here, this one is negative 20. There's also another negative here, so double negative. Okay. All right, so inside, negative 20 to the second minus 4 times 5 times 15, so that would be 400 minus 300, so that gives me 100. Okay. Here would be 5. So that's step 3. I'm going to pause for you. If you need to take notes, you need to copy this down, do so. Ask question. If any number that confused you, let me know. Okay. All right, so now if you look at on the bottom, it said 2 and 5, so that gives you 10. This is positive 20. Now, square root of 100. When you take the square root of 100, that will give you 10. Negative 20. Okay. So this, I'm going to erase this one. Okay. When I put in the template, I forgot, not that I forgot, but because for this one, the square root of 10, the square root of 100 would give you 10. So this is what I will have. 20 plus or minus 10 over 10. Okay. So that is the difference with the last problem, because 100, if I'm taking the square root, will give me a nice number. So I want that, so when I rewrite this, I will get rid of the square root. So I'm not going to use a template right here. Notice this template. This is when you still have the square root, so I'm not using that. I'm just going to write it over here like this, okay? So that will be step 4. And then the last step, what I would do is I will split this into 2 answers. The first one is 20 plus 10 over 10. 20 minus 10 over 10. Hold on, let me rewrite this. Some of you I missed when I cannot read your handwriting for that one. Agree, so let me fix it. So this would give you 20 plus 10 over 10. The second equation will be 20 minus 10 over 10, which we can simplify this one. So this one is 30 over 10, so that would be 3. This one is 10 over 10, which gives me 1. So sometime you will run into a nice number. If you be able to take the square root, then we have to simplify all the way. But if you cannot take the square root, I'm just going to ask you to leave it. So question for me on the steps. Okay, so in here, step number 1, I look for A, B, and C, right? And the C values, I don't have it, that's why it's 0. So I plug into, this is step 2, step 3, okay. All right, so what I can do right now is that I'm going to split this into 2 answers, 18 plus 18 over 6, 18 minus 18 over 6. Well, I know the bottom going to be 0 because 18 minus 18 will be 0, so I know that one. Let's do the top, plus 18 divided by 6 to give me 6. So these 2 are my answer. questions. So let's look at another special cases. When one of the values is missing, then what will happen? So again, step number 1, my A is 1. The B values that I don't have, the one with just the X I don't have, and the C value is negative 13. So it's possible that you may not have B or C values, okay? So I'm just going to plug in the values. The B value is 0, 0. A is 1. C is negative 13. 2 is 1. This is 0. So if you look in here, 0 minus 4 times 1 times negative 13, that would give you 0 plus 52. So this number in here would be 52. And the bottom is just 2 times 1. This is 0 again. This is 52. This is just 2. Now for the 0, you want to write it or you don't have to write it. You can just give it. So here's the option how you can write this one. Square root of 52 would not give me a nice number, so I don't have to take square roots. I just leave it. So here's the option. Plus square root of 52 over 2, or 0 minus square root of 52 over 2. That's one way for you to write it. Or you can have just square root of 52 over 2 and negative square root of 52 over 2. Okay? You want to write the 0? It's up to you. But if it's up to me, then I won't write that 0 just to save time. And I'm just being lazy, so I don't write that 0 out. But if you want to, you may write that 0. Okay? So that is another situation that you may run into, is that the B value is missing.